Hi, Dennis Weiss, Regal Communications. We're in our town, probably our favorite spot in our town, to be completely honest about it. The Eisenhower Presidential Library, Museum, and Boyhood Home. I have the Executive Director, Don Hammett, and looks like we are going to talk about the wide expanses of space today or something.
Well, you told me to have stuff this time.
I like stuff. I like stuff.
And I brought gloves for you.
Gloves. White gloves for me, blue gloves for you, because you're just the nitro glove kind of gal.
I do like the nitro gloves.
Yep, okay. Cotton works for me. So, Dwight David Eisenhower, I went to a softball game at Rural Center. The Community Foundation had given a grant to put up a new scoreboard, right, and the Rotarians had bought some bleachers, right, and they've been playing baseball down at Rural Center for over 50 years, and it's kind of an iconic little thing. They have ice cream socials and pie. So we went down to see this. And I walk up, said hello to one of the patrons who's always there, and the first thing she said to me, she said, "You need to get a bigger button than Dawn." I said, "I don't think they make a bigger button than Dawn has access to."
Can you carry it though? Like,
I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, I went for quantity today of buttons.
And I did little.
And, yeah, but yours trumps me again because it says Ike likes me.
Well, I don't know if Ike likes me, but a girl can hope.
He does. I think he does. I'm pretty sure he does, because we love Dwight David Eisenhower. So much to talk about. But it's interesting to me when you go to the softball game for other purposes, it proves the concept that people are interested in Dwight David Eisenhower, and they watch our program so they can hear what you have to say about it. So we are at maybe the launching pad for 8 years of peace and prosperity in my mind, and suburbia and civil rights and all the other context today, because space, about 1957, 1958, the whole world started to think about what was in space.
So let's make sure you and I are both aware that I'm not a scholar.
You're not?
No.
I thought you went to several schools.
Well, I went to several schools, but I'm not a historian, and I'm not a scholar.
All right.
Let's make sure we understand that.
Okay.
But what's really interesting to me is how interconnected everything is. So we started talking about NASA. July is the anniversary of NASA, so it's NASA month here, right, at the library. But then while we're having this conversation about NASA, we started talking about the geopolitical year.
Right.
Do you remember the?
I do.
And
yes.
So this concept of space exploration was interwoven with the geophysical year. I said geopolitical year.
That's okay.
Geophysical year.
They knew what you meant.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah. The America as a country, we're so young, really.
We really are.
In terms of the world, you know, we're not much older than that vase over there, are we? No, you know what I'm saying. So we've shared some conversation about history, our mutual love of that. But this, everybody watching the program, this affects them very directly. So every kid with an iPhone or any other Android, any other, are reaping the benefits of that helmet, 1958-ish.
You're right. So we had, after the war, Eisenhower was very interested and concerned with American safety, and having satellites in space was one concept for our security in response to any sort of Soviet expansion or Soviet threat. So this was part of the safety net for America, that we had to have things in space to keep an eye. And while we're there, let's look outside as well. Let's keep looking.
So watching a TV program the other night, and Sputnik came up. You know, so that's why it was so fresh in my mind. October of 1957, basketball-sized satellite.
Yeah, it's unimpressive when you look at it now from a modern point of view.
But it terrified the war planners.
Absolutely.
It really did, because the same rocket that can launch a satellite into space can also be fitted with a nuclear warhead.
Absolutely.
So it terrified the war planners, and it caused that concern has generated lots of positive things. Who wants to talk about being afraid of war and war? No, it's not much fun. But you know, a lot of domestic benefit has come from investment into protecting our country.
That's true.
And that helmet's one of them.
That's true. So you've mentioned the helmet twice. I guess
I did.
you want to
well,
talk
I
about
like
it.
it.
I guess you want to talk about it.
I mean, it's a real helmet.
It is well.
Not
it's,
one you get at Walmart.
This
you
was
see.
the number 2 helmet. This one didn't go to space.
Okay.
This was in case the number 1 helmet didn't work for some
Okay.
reason. So this is, I don't know if you want me to get it or do you want to get
Dave's
it?
got a shot of it. You know, if I
mean,
go
you
get
can-
it, all
you have to
sorts
put
of
your
things
gloves
could
on.
happen.
You have to put your gloves on.
I
but
will.
You
I'm
can
gonna
touch it.
I'm gonna resist the urge right now.
So this was the second helmet for Ed White.
Okay.
And Ed White, I'm reading because I don't want to get it wrong. This was from the 2nd Manned Gemini mission and the 10th Manned mission. And so this was his second helmet. And Ed White actually went on to an astronaut career, of course, but sadly he was killed in a launch test explosion for Apollo 1 in '67.
So I don't think this gets talked about much. You brought it up. I'm going to follow you down the road. I have a pilot buddy, and he often talks about the history of America in space follows behind the history of America in the air. And both of those, I don't think many people understand what a high casualty rate those people, which are our best and brightest pilots, became our astronauts, and that whole program. A lot of people gave the ultimate sacrifice for us to learn how to learn how to do this safely. And 86, 81 Challenger. 81.
81?
I think.
It was it.
84, 85, 86. I was right the first time. You should have just whacked me, Dave. 86 it is.
I was trying to remember high school.
Yeah. 86 was a good year. I bought my Chevy pickup in 1986. But that was Krista McAuliffe from New Hampshire was on that flight, a school teacher in space. I remember the excitement leading up to that. And we lost that crew. But as you look at it through Dwight David Eisenhower's eyes, his whole life was frontier exploration or doing things other people hadn't done, you know, the Star Trek thing or whatever. Which movie was it? Going places where no man has gone before. Wasn't that Star Trek on TV? So, but all of that is, we sit here among the reality of all of that. We really did that.
You said something that made me think of something, and then you kept talking, and I forgot.
Oh, well, I'll say it again, most likely.
I'm sure you
You're
will.
repeating.
I'm sure you will.
So
All right.
Eisenhower and Space, what have you got?
Let's see. You want to talk about the objects?
Absolutely. We'll get some shots
so
of them.
why don't you start with the paperweights, because they're small and I trust you with them.
Wow. Hear that, Dave? She trusts me with them. I am thinking she probably
All right, so we
doesn't.
have several paperweights and they have numbers on the bottom. So you tell me which number it is.
I have Apollo 10 lunar voyage, and the number is 8636.3.1.
I'm not going to find it fast enough.
Okay,
well, so you read
Apollo
the bottom.
10
Here it
lunar
is.
voyage. Lunar rendezvous, the final man-machine flight test before man lands on the moon. 31 trips around the moon. Temperature, 4,200 degrees
so
Fahrenheit. Re-entry speed, 24,760 miles per hour.
So one of the pieces that's in this acrylic is the heat shield.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's part of the heat shield. And that was, scientifically, that was a mesmerizing thing that they had to protect from these incredible temperatures to get our men back home. So most of these
Very
pieces
cool.
are heat shield.
Okay.
So
Oh, here's a good one. This has a burned portion on
Yep.
it, as we can see. We'll get close-up of it later with Dave.
And it says on the back which one it is as well.
86,363.3.
Apollo 4, November 67. Max speed on reentry, max heat on reentry. So this is a part of the heat shield. And it says it sustained this heat for 8 hours. Does that sound right? I'm not a physicist.
Well, the re-entry probably didn't last 8 hours, but as far as coming through the atmosphere, but it must be true because it's on your sheet.
Well, we're humans.
But you can take a look at this if you were to visit the library and when it's on exhibit, my goodness, and you can see with the human eye that this region in the middle is where the guys inside safety started.
Well, and from a museum point of view, I also look at it and see the changing of technology in my field, because we wouldn't do that anymore. We wouldn't encase it in acrylic.
What would you do?
We would leave it.
And
What the theory in museums is you can't do something that you can't undo. So I can't undo that.
I understand that. What's in this box?
Oh, that one's nice. That one's nice.
An exact duplicate of the disc containing goodwill messages from around the world left on the surface of the moon by the astronauts of Apollo 11.
So we'll have to get Dave to get a close-up of this, but there are all of these little goodwill messages in different languages.
It says it can be read with a 70x microscope. You got one in your pocket?
I really don't.
Neither I.
But it's to me
Dave,
it's
you'll
such
have to get a shot of that.
To me, it's such a special moment that we as Earthlings left these messages in different languages on the moon for other visitors.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. We used to joke about the fact, I wonder if the Russians took the wheels off the moon buggy. That's just something country boys do, you know.
Y'all are crazy.
Yeah.
Y'all are crazy. Okay, so then we have the other heat shield.
There's lots of heat shield material. This one here is burned.
Can you imagine having that as a paperweight on your desk? Oh, it's just a little piece of a space.
I think the fellows who probably were in that capsule would think that would be a great reminder to them of how close to the edges they were.
So I don't know if you know this about me, but I like odd stories.
Okay.
Like I like...
You gonna tell me one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my dad was in the Navy, and he was a mechanic, and he was John Young's mechanic when John Young was on the USS Coral Sea.
Okay.
So I have an affinity for John Young. So I was doing research for this.
Who's John Young?
John Young is an astronaut who just recently passed away, as a matter of fact. He was a Challenger commander. He was an incredible astronaut and naval pilot.
There you go.
So I was reading up on John Young because, and he got in trouble because one time when he went to space, he brought a corned beef sandwich with him.
I knew that story.
He smuggled a corned beef sandwich to space and got in trouble. And the House of Representatives, the U.S. House of Representatives, reprimanded him.
What did they want him to take? A pastrami? What's
Nothing.
the deal?
They said that he cost the taxpayers millions of dollars because he interrupted the space food scientific research that they were doing.
I kind of like John Young myself now. I didn't know who it was, but I knew the story. And I certainly didn't know that your dad was mechanic for him on the Coral Sea.
Yeah, isn't that neat?
Yes, it is.
All right, so the next thing you're going to want to touch would be the hard hat.
The hard hat.
And the name tag that is near the hard hat.
Okay.
Aren't you happy I'm giving you all of this?
Well, I am. You tell us about it while I retrieve it.
So the hard hat and the name tag were Dwight's. These belong to Eisenhower.
Okay.
And
wow,
he
President
used
of the
these.
United States official seal right on it.
They were dedicating the space station in Huntsville.
I held it just right. It could look like she's wearing it.
Photo op. Photo op. So this is from the dedication of Marshall Space Field in Huntsville.
Okay.
And we still use that station as the
Huntsville, Alabama. A lot of history there.
Absolutely, but we still run a lot of our space.
Missions.
That's not the word I'm looking for, but that's okay. That'll work.
Activities.
Research.
Research. Yeah. Okay.
So I think it's nice that we have President Eisenhower's.
It says right there on the tag, President Eisenhower guest. I find that a little restrictive myself.
Well, You know, he couldn't go in restricted places, I suppose. No, so that's from 1960.
George C. Marshall Space Flight Center, Huntsville, Alabama.
And the Johnson
September
Space Center
60.
opened in 61. So we were moving with this space. The flag is really important.
We'll take a picture of that.
The flag is the first thing that's been recovered from space. It went to space and came back, and it was recovered. The chief of staff for, I believe, the Army, the letter's right there, gave the flag to Eisenhower. And in the letter, he talks about how part of the recovery efforts started over Alaska and ended over Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that neat?
Yes, it is neat. That's pretty cool. I think of what we have in the air today, circumnavigating the globe, if you will, and all of the both civilian technology it supports and military defense it provides for us. And anytime you're talking about something current, I find it interesting to follow the trail backwards to where things started. And we can sit here and tell the camera, you know, Dwight David Eisenhower was extremely instrumental in the push to space. Kennedy, who followed him, did so as well. But you know, there's lots of best. Best is a time-sensitive thing. Best today, best tomorrow, best on Thursday. There's only one first.
Well, that actually made me a little weepy when we were talking about it. I said, you know how I get when we're talking about patriotic stuff. But the point of all of these tests were, can we get humans in space and back safely? And so to me, the first thing that we recovered is an American flag. Oh my word.
Yeah.
I got weepy. I got very weepy.
Well, great things should have great reasons.
Yeah.
And you know, putting something in space and bringing it back is a great thing. So you should have a great reason. And I think maybe for young people who are watching, so help them understand that a certain segment of our population are very sensitive about our flag, are very defensive about our flag, and in fact, their entire set of human responses may set at a different level from yours, but there are reasons for that. We've lived through these things. We have more emotional and stronger, shorter connections to the events that made that flag possible. So it's okay. People around us, okay to be different.
Thanks for the affirmation.
You bet.
This is, I really like this. So the patch and the flag were carried aboard Apollo 8. And this was given, it says, to General Dwight D. Eisenhower in appreciation for your leadership in promoting our quest into space exploration. Yeah. And it's signed by...
I can't read
Can you read?
No.
Bill Anders.
Okay.
Jim Lovell.
Yep.
And Gus Gorman. That's not right. Frank Borman.
Frank Borman. No, that can't be right either. Is
well,
it Frank
we'll look
Borman?
it up. I got the paperwork right here.
Dave tells us it's right.
Is he a space expert?
He's pretty much an expert
Why
in many
isn't he
things.
sitting here too?
I don't know. We should try that one next time. I can run that camera. Anyway, Jim Lovell, I think everybody remembers that name.
Yep, of course.
It's interesting. You know, I always think about this no matter what we're talking about. Maybe some kid just flips by, sees Channel 2 and sees that helmet, which is why I love it. Because I like things that'll catch kids' eyes. And they'll see that helmet and they see that unique reflector on it. Those aren't sunglasses, you know, but that's where that technology came from. They'll see that and they'll maybe pause and listen just a little while. And if they hear anything from us about this is the Presidential Library of Dwight David Eisenhower. It's in Abilene, Kansas, and these things are here and they're accessible to you to learn from. A job well done for you and I.
And everybody
and the
here.
helmet.
Yep.
And the helmet. So very cool. 2 minutes left.
I'm really mesmerized by the helmet because I don't think it would fit on my head.
I think it would squeak going on anybody's head. I think it's pretty tight.
All right, so there was one other odd little story that I needed to share with you.
Okay.
So the first carbon-based
Okay.
Entity. One of the first to go into space was a Kansan.
Okay.
Do you know this?
No.
It was a rhesus monkey named Miss Abel. And Miss Abel was born and raised in Independence, Kansas.
Well, then she was a native.
Right? And so there was, apparently during the Depression, they built monkey cages around the United States. I don't
Well, and
understand this.
Independence, Kansas was one of the early centers of oil development in that area. It's just across the line in Oklahoma as well.
Okay.
So that part of
this makes
Kansas
sense?
had luxury items like zoos and
Okay,
things.
well, so this was part of that. So this rhesus monkey was born there, and she was tapped by...
What was her name again?
Miss Abel.
Miss Abel.
She was tapped by the space program as an able body
That's
to
funny.
go into space. Sadly, when she came back, she got sick and didn't live very long. But we can be proud that one of the first creatures in space was from Kansas.
There we go. And we recovered her.
And we recovered her.
Yes, we did. Okay. Well, I tell you, we always run out of time before we run out of things to talk about. And we've done so again. So I guess as a reminder to people just flipping through the channels and seeing this on TV, gosh, there is not only a world of things for you to come see, learn, and appreciate here at the Eisenhower Presidential Library Museum Boyhood Home. There's outside the world of things to come here and enjoy, including Eisenhower's leadership in the space program, established NASA. Some of the most important years of American history were those 8 years of peace and prosperity.
Agreed.
All right, had fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for the gloves.
You can't sit here without them.
No, I'm pretty sure that's true. I'm Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Communications. Happy to be here with Don Hammett, the Executive Director of the Eisenhower Presidential Library Museum and Boyhood Home. Come see us sometime down here. Have a great day.